Good evening, everyone. This is Jeff with Astroscoop, astrology coaching and mentoring. It is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And welcome. We're going to wait a few minutes, see if anyone comes in. And today is the first full weekend of fall, autumn, and happy Sunday. Yes, happy Sunday as well. And it's the first full weekend of Libra. So, and the last Sunday in September. It's almost October. Unbelievable. So time is flying, and I'm looking to the west, completely dark. Again, it's 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it gets dark. The sunset starts now before 7 p.m. here on the eastern seaboard, and then is very, very quickly dark. Sunset's much quicker. So we're going to talk about Libra tonight. And last week we talked about Libra 1, the start of Libra and the start of fall. And tonight we'll continue that, and we will talk about the upcoming period of Libra 2. So we're just going to wait a few minutes. We have one person. We have a #1 crown fan, which is great. And I think those are wonderful, those little icons and fans, to get people to motivated to engage with the chat. I think that's great. Hopefully we can have more of that in the future. And I just want to remind everyone, if you see this on the replay, because we're a minute in, that the live streams are here on Sundays on YouTube, Astroscoop 3801. And for now, keeping them at either 7:30 or 8 p.m. on Sundays. So just keep in mind that. If I change it, I will let you know on either Instagram, which is Astroscoop7, or X, which is Astro_Scoop, not dash, Astro_Scoop. You can follow me both on there. And I post on Instagram and X almost every day, at least every other day, and I do reels. So that's where you could catch up with me if you haven't seen a recent live stream. But just also, I have all kinds of live streams from the past. If you're new to this, new to the channel, or new to this live stream, just a reminder that I have all sorts of different live streams that you can pick. And I've done enough live streams that I've done every sign. So no matter what sun sign you are, or if you want it for a friend or a family member, you can search through my playlist. Just look up the sign that you want. Any sign, I have a playlist. And I also have playlists for the earth, air, fire, and water signs. So if you know what element your sign is. And then, of course, we have all sorts of other playlists on there too. And we have the moon playlists. We have the live stream playlists and commentary. So you can just pick out something on there. And then sign in to subscribe. So make sure you click all or personalized, but you have to sign in with your Google or YouTube account, and then click subscribe to Astroscoop, and then you'll get notified when I do a live stream, and you'll get notified of any videos that I do. And I'm working on a video right now, but I'm having a lot of trouble with it. So I'm hoping to get that video out in the next week or two. But I've been focusing mostly on the live streams here, if you follow the channel, and enjoying the live stream format very much. I really, really like this. I hope to gain more people in here. Kind of surprised with all the followers lately in the comments on other videos that people aren't popping in here more out of curiosity. But if you have any comments or criticisms about the live streams on things you'd like me to talk about astrologically, the planets, transits, signs, elements, aspects, certain celebrities, celebrity charts, etc., please let me know, because the feedback is very important. I try to read all the feedback, and I try to incorporate that into future live streams and incorporate some of my planning from and trying to change it up from like what I did a year ago. For example, I talked about Libra a year ago, obviously, and I'm trying to change things up. And some of the stuff is similar. Some of the themes are similar, but there's also a lot different that changes each year with the planetary transits and, of course, the aspects in astrology. So just going to wait a couple minutes. I don't see anyone else in yet. I hope this is going to be a good time. I'm trying to access other time zones. I know in the West Coast it's 5 o'clock right now. Maybe people are eating. And then in like in Europe, it's a lot of people are probably sleeping. It's 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. there, like in Europe. But there are also other countries that I'm trying to access different time zones as well. So keep playing around with that. But of course, the live stream replays are always on here. And then after this is live, it's a video that you can comment on, you can like it, you can share it, and all that good stuff. So we're going to talk about Libra 2 tonight. And it feels really, you know, the energy lately feels really, really quiet. And it's interesting of going from summer to fall and going from Virgo, late Virgo to Libra. And now we're almost a full week into Libra. Tomorrow is 1 full week since we started Libra on the 22nd. And so we're almost in the exact, we'll be in the middle of Libra soon. But it feels so different. It feels very, at least to me, it feels very, it feels quiet. It feels quiet. And, you know, Libra is a sign of balance. So Libra is always seeking balance. And Libra is trying to right the wrongs and fix the cosmic problems more so than any other zodiac sign. All signs contribute to the community and the world with their own gifts and helping other people, a positive, higher vibration of the sign. But no one seeks more cosmic fixing or harmony. No person seeks it more than Libra, definitely. So Libra 2 is October 3rd to the 10th or 11th. So today, obviously, is late September. October 1st, I believe, is Wednesday. So we're still in the early Libra period until Thursday. And then Friday, October 3rd to the 10th or 11th comprises the Libra 2 period. So we'll talk about that, about why the Libra 2 period is a little different than the Libra period we talked about last week. And what can, when we look at the transits, what can the signs expect from the transits, but specifically, what can Libra expect? Now, as I mentioned on most live streams, every week when we talk about whatever sun sign we're in, whatever zodiac period, the cosmic cycle, every chart, every person's natal birth chart has this sign somewhere. So even if you don't have a planet in Libra, you have Libra on a house cusp. And you may have it in a house cusp, you may have it inside a house intercepted, or you have it on your wheel on a house cusp, which is a Libra influence. That's a Libra influence in that area of your life of where you use Libra energy, even if you're not a Libra or you don't have Libra planets. Now I have, in my chart, I have one outer planet in Libra, but I have no major Libra planets. I don't have Libra rising. And so depending on my Uranus in Libra is at the top of the chart. So it is somewhat important in my makeup because it's near the more public area of my chart for Uranus rather than being below. But it's interesting that wherever Libra is, And there's no doubt I can see how I use my Libra house cusp there in comparison to how my other house cusps, how I approach different areas of my life. So like a Libra rising person, they're masked to the world. And when they were a baby, the energy they breathed in was Libran, even though they're not a Libra. But if it was Libra was rising, they started to have a worldview or a mask to the world that was ruled by Venus, sort of thing. So Venus 2 people, how do they differ from Libra 1, which we're in right now? So early Libra energy is all Venus. It's double trouble. It's Venus ruler and Venus co-ruler. So you have Libra people that are early are all Venus. Now I do talk about the fixed stars, so you can use some of the fixed stars in the mythology to sometimes have other sort of planetary influences on the person's personality or potential. But basically you're talking about Venus. So we're still in a Venus period right now with Libra. But Libra is very interesting because since I don't have any major Libra in my chart, and the way I feel, I take stock of how I'm responding to the current planetary weather, cosmic weather, astrologically, but also just physically. But how I feel mentally and physically, how I'm reacting to how nature's changing and it getting dark earlier. And I kind of like this kind of a little more mild calmness, equilibrium, which I kind of feel a little bit. Which, so is this what it like? Is this what it's like to feel like? Is this what it feels like if you're Libra? Is what I'm asking, because it's interesting. It's interesting to me because I don't have any major Libra. So any of you that don't have major Libra, if you don't have major planets in Libra or Libra rising, you have it somewhere in your chart, but it's most likely not strongly emphasized in your personality, your makeup, or how you approach certain areas in your life. But I've known a lot of people with major Libra, especially moon Libras, Libra and Venus, a lot of Mars Libra people I've known, a good deal of Libra rising people, and also Mercury in Libra as well. I tend to have a very strong mental dynamic with people that have Mercury in Libra. I have a lot of good conversation with Libra Mercury people, although I could get into arguments with them as well. So it depends on, it can be very stimulating. It can also be a little bit of the oppositional kind of thing, because Libra can be very agreeable, but also argumentative. So sort of thing. But so Libra 2 adds, Venus is the ruler, and Libra 2 adds Uranus as a co-ruler. And I mentioned this last year. So Libra 2s are farther along in the Libra period, which, like I mentioned, will start next week. And so Libra is taking the pleasant qualities of Venus and adding a little bit of an edge to it, a little bit of a Uranus or Aquarius edge to it. And it doesn't necessarily make Libra 2s more of a rebel than Libra 1s. But what I think it does is it adds a socially sharp, is what I put on the thumbnail, socially sharp sort of person. Libras, I mentioned last week that Libras are very sharp, tend to be very sharp people, very highly intelligent, and Librans tend to be very, very good conversationalists. And wherever Libra is in your chart, my chart, everybody's chart, is where you can be harmonious and connect with others in a peaceful way, ultimately. And okay, AG, welcome. Says, I'm Libra Scorpio Sun. Okay, Libra Scorpio Sun. You're probably October 22nd, maybe 21st, 22nd, or 23rd. Fourth house also have Saturn, Pluto, and Lilith in Libra. Fourth house. Awesome. I'm a strong fourth house person. I have a lot of planets. 22nd. Okay. I know a lot of people born that week. I have family members that are the 21st and 23rd of October. And I have worked with many people that are October 23rd, 25th, 26th, and Halloween babies. I've known a ton of Libra Scorps and early Scorps. So I'm very well versed with people in that week. 11:59. Wow. So AG is saying Libra Scorpio Sun. So obviously we're going to get to that soon in a little less than a month. But wherever Libra is, you know, I mention this all the time. Libra is really a really interesting sign in the sense that Librans can really succeed or suffer from the scales. You know, so they're all about scales. Wherever Libra is in the chart, any Libra planet, or even a cusp Libra planet like a Libra Scorpio or a Virgo Libra, the scales of justice are always there. So this can really help them in life to connect with people and to connect with groups and bring harmony and intelligence to a lot of situations. But it can also throw them off quickly, thrown off because of the balance thing, because very often groups and things are not balanced. And I lost my train of thought. But the balance thing is very, very crucial in terms of not just balance between interpersonal relationships and balance between the Libra person and the other, or the Libra person and the group, but it's also balance within themselves. It's that sense of equilibrium and balance. And the Libra energy is Aries moon, Cancer rising. Talk about a conundrum. Yeah, that's true. That's a lot of cardinality. You have all the cardinal. You have 3 cardinal signs there. Libra, Aries, and Cancer are all cardinal. Yeah, exactly. So you probably have Capricorn on your 7th house. That's a lot. And you know, the cardinal signs, I always mention this, and Libra included, even though Libra is a peace-loving sign, all the cardinal signs push. It's all push. They can be pushy. That can be good or bad, but cardinal signs have action, have prana energy that always has to push somehow, always has to make a mark, an impact in a very straightforward way in their immediate environment. So Libra, Aries, Capricorn, and Cancer have to do that in some way. And the Libra part, what's so interesting about Libra 2s is here you have the Uranus co-ruler. Libra 2s are loners, and yet they're very social. So I imagine being a Libra or having major Libra, especially if you're on a Libra cusp, even trying to balance the ability to want to socialize and having your social urge to socialize with certain people, and then wanting alone time, wanting to be alone, do your own thing, have your own peace and harmony, and have your own equilibrium, and keep that in balance. Because Librans are affected by others in a way. It's not in the way that the water signs are. You know, like take for example, AG is a Cancer rising. So Cancer rising people have this, this emotional antennae that are like bugs. So Cancer risings are really touchy about what they can pick up from people, and they pick up a lot of what's not said, how people's body language, and not necessarily what they're saying, but it's like how they're saying it and that sort of thing. So that's how a water sign would be sensitive. But Libra, if someone had Libra rising, they would also be sensitive to their environment, but it would be more in a equilibrium sort of way. It's more airy and intellectual. It's not as emotional, but that need to be alone and to recharge and to have respite and peace versus the need for stimulation. And even though Librans can be chill, Librans like thrill. So there's a little bit of thrill seeking here with Uranus, of like, what's next? Kind of like a Gemini or a Gemini 1 or a Gemini 2 DECAN person, which Libra could be very good friends with, work well with together on a project or, at a work environment sort of thing. And it's kind of like, what's next? What's our next thrill, kind of thing. But the Venus, the Venus influence wants to chill, and the Venus can be, it's not necessarily lazy, but it's like a reserve sort of thing. So Libra 2 can be euphoric, and that kind of goes along with, Librans born this week can get kind of carried away with things, and obviously a lot in love and romance specifically. Again, I've known a lot of Libra people, but I don't have major Libra in my chart. So I would love to talk to more people that have major Libra. And it's like, remember, every cardinal sign has to make an impact and has to push. Cardinal signs don't lay back for too long. They're always activating something. They're always taking action in different ways. It could be in a quiet way, like a Cancer or Capricorn, or it could be in a more social way, like Libra, or in a more direct, very direct way, like Aries. But there's a euphoric quality, and Libra 2 should insist on their needs, not just their wants. So Libra can be very big on what do I want? I want fun. I want harmony. I want someone to understand me. I want that ping pong. I want that pleasant, stimulating, satisfying ping pong match with another person, or with my friend, or with a partner. I want that ping pong match. Libras are good at ping pong. I don't mean the game literally, but sort of metaphoric ping pong. That's what Libra's good at. So, but Libra should insist on their needs too. Remember, what you need isn't necessarily what you want, and what you want isn't necessarily what you need. So, so sometimes Librans want a certain someone or something in romance, but they may need something entirely different. But it really depends on what you're looking for, because Libra is also one of those unique signs that can have a light, almost superficial relationship with someone, and yet they're very partnership oriented, and they do like partnerships for the longer term, but they can kind of go either way depending on how they feel inside that balance sort of thing. And I always notice with charts that are strongly Libran, there is always a kind of it's kind of like the Libra planets catch themselves. So if they start to be a little too argumentative, because they're balancing things in their, Libra ultimately wants to balance in their favor so that they can feel calm and peaceful with the situation. And if they're thrown off, they can quickly go from just having a sharp intellectual opinion to argumentative. But it really depends on, you would look to the Venus as well. There's a lot of Libra people's charts that have Scorpio Venus, and there's a lot of Virgo Venus, as AG said, Venus Virgo. Most Libra people either have Virgo and Venus or Venus and Scorpio almost any year with any generation. Most of the charts of Libra people I've looked up. But it's interesting because that's going to color what, how Librans are in love. If a Sun in Libra 2 is generally comfortable with kind of lighter relationships, but they have Venus in Scorpio, like I mentioned last week, love is going to be a little darker and it's going to be a little more consuming. If a Libra has a Virgo Venus, love is going to be a little more practical, sensible, precise, dutiful. It's going to be clean. It's going to be affectionate, but it's going to be a little colder. It's going to be like cold yet affectionate. So it really depends on, and the aspects, of course, but it really depends on those needs versus wants. And that's something that it's hard for Libras to kind of figure out sometimes. It's hard for Libra, especially Libra 2s, to kind of reconcile and figure out what their needs are versus their wants. And I always say this about Libra, since we have a few people in here, I want to mention this again, I mentioned this pretty much in my Libra videos. Libra always gets this reputation of being indecisive. Every astrologer in the world says indecisive. Okay, That's somewhat true, but that's not really how I see Libra. It's not really accurate. It's not necessarily indecisive. So as I've mentioned before, Libra is weighing and balancing and judging all the information that's coming to him or her. So they're weighing and judging this information and the vibrations. Are the vibrations harmonious? Am I feeling pleasant? Is there conflict? Is there discord? Is this kind of just, is it getting too, like, is it getting too hot in here? I don't mean the temperature. I mean, like, the temperature of people. Is it too hot? Is it disharmonious, kind of thing? That's what Libra is always kind of trying to figure out. So there's always that need to figure out, like, hey, I feel like this. Well, Libra's like, well, how do you feel? What are you thinking? Because I want to make sure that things are good. And what's really important for Libra 2 people is to not want others to be pleased and then expect something in return that's not vocalized. So in other words, in your mind, you're expecting something in return from someone because you want that person to be pleased and happy, and then they're not returning to you what you want. So you just have to be a little more direct and a little more clear. You have to incorporate the Aries 2 vibe, which in 6 months, Aries 2 obviously is spring, and the Aries 2 vibe is much more direct and is more uncompromising, whereas the Libra 2 is compromising. The Aries 2, the opposite polarity, is more uncompromising. And both approaches are good in different situations, right? Sometimes it's good to be uncompromising and really stick to your guns and stand up for yourself. It's something that's really valuable and truthful. And just say to people, like, I can't compromise. This is it. But as we know, Aries planets have a hard time with compromise. And so Aries planets need to chill out a little bit and work on that compromise. And that's where Libra can be a very good teacher. Libra 2 could be a wonderful teacher for Aries 2 in refinement, how to chill, how to maybe get your way, get your way with honey, instead of something that's, more bitter or more sour. So the Aries 2 Libra 2 opposition is stimulating. So Libra 2 can learn a lot from Aries 2 and can learn more take action without always weighing all the consequences or scenarios. Remember, if you sacrifice, this is a big thing for like signs like Libra and Pisces. When you sacrifice something or you make a decision, something's sacrificed. And then sometimes it's like, oh, shoot, maybe I should have made the other decision and sacrificed this. And that's where it's important to get in touch with yourself, where you're grounded and you can feel like your gut decision or your initial impression on a situation is more accurate and feels, you should trust that. It may not always be right, but you should trust that kind of gut feeling, that's something that Libra 2 could work on, and a lesson for them. And the Aries 2 Libra 2 polarity combination is, Libra is about a little bit of sensation and thoughts. Libra are very strong thought people, and Aries is more intuition and kind of impulsive thoughts based on their own self and their own self-oriented drives. So Libra 2 can learn. That's another thing too. Like when we clash with certain people, sometimes we're not clashing with them necessarily because they're a bad person or they're not nice. We're clashing with them because there might be a lesson there. And we can definitely learn. I know, myself included, I'm always willing to learn from other people that are strongly different from me astrologically. And I know what's weak in my chart. I don't have a lot of air signs in my chart. I don't have major Libra. So I know that those kinds of things in other people is where I can learn and grow and complement That's a beautiful thing. So if you know your chart, which AG seem to really know your chart well, midheaven in Pisces 26. I know a lot. There's a lot. Most Cancer people have Pisces, late Pisces on the 10th or early Aries, and yeah, I mean it's really interesting with the combination of Libra 2. Libra 2s are natural teachers too. They're very good teachers in the sense that they know how to. So if a Libra 2 wants to correct something in their environment, like I mentioned, how it's different than like Virgo. Virgo is more fault finding. That's Virgo's mission. Is Virgo's scope is much more narrow in terms of just fixing something that's like not right in the environment on a more practical level. But Libra 2 as the Uranus, so they can teach with a lot of intellectualism, but they can also learn to be more inspirational, like inspire themselves, inspire others. And that's one thing they can learn from the fire signs. Air signs can learn a lot of inspiration from the fire signs if the air sign is a little too detached or aloof or removed. But again, it depends on the placements as well. And the Libra person, it's very important to see what house the sun in Libra is in, and the Venus house as well. So not only the Venus sign, but the Venus house. I knew a Venus, like there was one person I knew that had a Venus. There were Libra, Venus in Scorpio in the first house, the Aries house. So taking the social oriented qualities of Libra 2, and then Venus in Scorpio, which is more secretive and reserved in love, but placing it in the first house, which is very much on stage and right in the front of the personality towards the public and towards the world. So it's not as easy to hide that Venus and Scorpio energy as if it were in a different house than the first house. So those types of things are very important. But teacher versus inspiration, that's something very important for Libra 2. And Libra 2 should be, sometimes Libras don't like other people that are incredibly firm and absolute about their decisions. And part of that is because Libra likes to keep their options open, like Gemini. They like to keep their options open to maybe change their mind or adjust, which in some cases is very good. But in other cases, you do have to make a decision. You know, if you want to marry two different people, it really isn't fair. And there's another Libra word. It really isn't fair to leave anyone hanging, including yourself. You have to make a decision. Oh, I love two people. And very often, there's no other sign in the zodiac that can actually love two people at the same time like Libra. They can actually say, I love you and I love you. I can be with you and I can be with you. So a Libra person, especially a male, could easily have two wives and be fine with that. And obviously there's all sorts of different kinds of marriages in the world now and different kinds of relationships, open, closed, whatever. But, you know, Libra can be susceptible to that love nature in others, even if they are already loving someone that they've created some kind of harmony with. So that's interesting. So a couple examples is Neve Campbell, the actress from the 1996 horror movie Scream. And she was also on, I believe, a show called Party of Five, a lot of TV work. And Nev's a very good example of a Libra 2 female. I think she blends a nice Venus vibration where she's feminine. She has a nice smile. She has the toothy smile. It's kind of reminiscent of Libra, but she's also strong. There's something strong about her. And there's also something she kind of knows. She's a little detached to protect herself. So I think she does that. She rides that line well between being feminine and strong in her roles. And I think that's a good higher octave of a Libra 2 female. like actress or musician that is still feminine but has that kind of intellectual strength. And Libra still is a yang. Libra is a yang sign. That's another dichotomy with Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus, the goddess of love, but Libra is an air sign, which is yang. So it's oriented towards outward, fire and air, which are yang. So that's interesting. So Nev Campbell she's great. I really like her. And Andreas Vollenweider, it's quite a name. Say that 3 times. Vollenweider is a New Age, Swiss New Age composer. He's kind of getting old now. He is from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. He has some really, really beautiful, chill music that's like really good, like nighttime music or Sunday music. If you want to just clear your mind, it's kind of detached. It's not very passionate, but it's very chill Libra music, and it's beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful music. So check him out. I've always liked him since my 20s. Another person is Steve Miller. He's from the Steve Miller Band, and 60s, 70s, and 80s, had a lot of hits. Steve Miller is a very his music is very interesting in the fact that it's kind of chill, has that Venus chill vibe, but it's also rock. So he has that yang, and with his lyrics, and our lyrics are very, very likable and sort of like a pal. Very, very kind of typical male Libra music is Steve Miller. And then we have John Lennon, who I think I mentioned last year. John Lennon's also born this week. He's probably like the best example of any musician I can think of born between the 3rd and 10th or 11th, comprising Libra 2. And although I'm not a big Beatles fan, nor am I a big fan of John Lennon's solo music, undoubtedly he was a very creative and highly talented songwriter, and unique in a lot of ways, especially with his relationship with Yoko and his political and social activist kind of beliefs and leanings, sort of thing. Karen Carr said, I have 2 friends born on the 4th who are very different. Your analysis is very helpful. Oh, great. 2 of them. Wow. That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, the Venus is really, really important. It's more important than any other sign. That Venus placement, like AG says, Venus Virgo, that Venus placement is a bingo when you want to figure out what the Libra person's like. And I dated a Libra woman once, and she had a Scorpio Venus. So even though she was social and light and fun, she had this intense Scorpio Venus, which I liked, but at times it was a bit much. Scorpio Venus people, it's not a great placement for Venus, and it can take on the darker and more negative aspects, unfortunately, of Venus at times. And Venus Scorpio is in a kind of a quiet, intense, plotting way. It's a bit much. So the Venus in Virgo is definitely not intense like Scorpio, although it is intense in possibly in its standards or demands and how it wants things. So that can be a positive or negative in a relationship as well. But yeah, definitely. So John Lennon, we'll get back to him in a moment. I'm gonna share his chart with you all at the end, because I think he's one of the best examples here, and I think that's something I can't remember if I talked about him in a video or not. Oh, thank you. But he's really really good example. So there's a star in the constellation called Cygnus or Cygnus. I know there's a couple different spellings, and this is a star that John Lennon is born under, and it's around 17 or 18 degrees of a Libra planet, and it's a very unusual star. And when I think about these Libra people, I don't necessarily see the early Libra people born last week, as unusual, unless they have strong Uranus or strong Aquarius in their chart, or possibly some more fire or air. But the Uranus decadent, the Uranus influence, there is a lot of zaniness almost with the thoughts of Libra people born this week. And David Lee Roth from Van Halen, from the rock group Van Halen, who is he is a kook. I've watched interviews with him. He's a, I don't even know how to describe him. He's a wild guy, but very, very unbelievably intelligent, kind of brilliant almost. And John Lennon was in some ways as well. So even if you look at Neve Campbell's, the way she acts in Scream, you know, kind of like how she's kind of trying to outsmart the killer. So she kind of plays vulnerable. She kind of knows when to be vulnerable and knows when to be strong. And that's the higher octave, the higher vibration of Libra, is knowing when to be strong with that sense of justice and knowing when to be peaceful and harmonious and not argue every point. Not every point in life needs to be argued. And this polarity, Aries and Libra, really has that lesson. Aries people can be very argumentative, Aries planets, and so can Libra in different ways. But the Aries-Libra polarity, there's a big lesson there to not, every point does not have to be actually, you know, expelled, and really you don't have to grapple and argue every point. And that's very important for the Aries-Libra polarity. But this star is a very unusual star. And from what I was reading, it's not necessarily positive or negative, but it definitely can cause the native to be unusually harmonious, or too harmonious, or too people-pleasing, or they can be too much of a spectator because of the detachment of Libra and the need to avoid conflict. So if you're detached and you don't want conflict, you may stay on the sidelines a little too much in life and then not participate, sort of thing. So make sure, Libra people, make sure you're participating sufficiently in life and you're not hiding too much to avoid conflict. We all, you know, almost everybody, again, everyone has Libra somewhere in their chart. So in that area of your life, we're all going to want harmony, you know, sort of thing. So, you know, that sort of thing. If someone's an Aries rising and they have Libra on the 7th, that's Libra's own house, it's partnership, it's marriage. So if someone has Libra on the 7th, they're going to attract Libra type partners, but that's going to be where their Libra lessons are. That Libra person, that's where their Libra lessons are going to reside, with themselves and also with others, because it happens to be the 7th house. Whereas with its Libra rising, a Libra rising person, you know, like Libra rising, I think Jennifer Aniston, Vince Vaughn, Denzel Washington, Britney Spears, I think, maybe Christina Aguilera. Those are all Libra rising people. And so the Libra rising person, the Libra's all on their first house, so it's all with the self. It's not so much with others, and it's their package to the world. So that's kind of an interesting star to be born under. So Libra 2s are very observant, as all most air signs are, but Libra 2, especially with the Uranus quality, Libra 2 people can be very observant. What is the name of that star? It's Seginus. Seginus or Seginus, Seginus. Or you could just type into Google fixed star Libra 17 to 18 degrees, and it'll come up. There's a lot of astronomy websites that have it. And I'm not a real deep fixed star person. I do mention them from time to time. There's people on the web that I thank them for the rigorous detail they've done transcribing all these fixed stars over the decades. Oh, you're welcome. Great. But it's definitely, these stars are definitely an influence. It's not an end all and be all, but depending on the degrees, there's definitely an influence. So the observant nature of Libra 2 is very good in society. That's why they're sharply social. And so when they do come out of their peaceful respite period, Libra 2 has a lot to teach people and a lot to share. And it's usually very well thought out and very interesting. and definitely an idealist. And that goes along with the star as well, being idealistic. And I put here loner question mark. So I've always noticed that people with Libra planets, especially Libra moons and Venus, have that sort of struggle between they really are social, they love those one-on-one relationships and friendships, and they like some of them to be light. They don't they don't want them to all be heavy. Some of them need to be kind of a little more acquaintance or a little lighter, but they also have struggle because there's going to be a period where they're going to need to recharge and regain their own balance, their equilibrium. So it's kind of, do I want to be with this group or this person, or do I want to be a loner? So it can be kind of a little bit of both. And when I watch actors and actresses that are born this week, I kind of notice that there's this combination of that they're outgoing and social, but also that Libra nature and that Venus nature where there's a little reserve, and they are not as direct, or their energy or force is not on the surface as it would be like with an Aries planet, which is their opposite. It's very hard to hide. And I mentioned in the summer how it's hard for Leos to hide themselves. It's also very hard to hide Aries. It's very hard for Aries planets to hide. Rarely do you not feel or see the Aries energy in other people, especially if you're into astrology and you just know that energy kind of thing. Midge Orr is another singer who's a Libran singer. He was with a group called Ultravox, a new wave group. He's really interesting because he has this very kind of like detached, quiet, thoughtful music, but yet a lot of his music with the groups that he was in is very intense and emotional and has this like dramatic quality to it. And part of that reason is Midge has a lot of major Scorpio, including Scorpio rising in his chart. So Midge, I think, is a Scorpio moon and a Scorpio rising. So he's very much consumed by his arts, and he puts his all into it. And but he's very interesting. I think he's a very, very underrated English songwriter and musician. He should be mentioned more in circles like Peter Gabriel and Phil Collins, who are two other British air sign musicians. He should be in that circle. So the inconjuncts, the wild cards, I always talk about this. So astrologers always talk about the trines, the signs that are square. The opposition, which I just mentioned, is Aries. But the inconjuncts are Taurus 2, which would be like May 3rd, and Pisces 2, which would be like March 3rd. So if you know anybody those weeks, and you know someone this week, those two people are inconjunct exactly by degree. So if you know like a 16, 17, or 18 degree Taurus or Pisces planet or person, it's inconjunct the Libra 2. And what's interesting is, I think because Librans value peace so much. Now, again, it depends on the situation. That can be very good, but it can also be a very big detractor in life, in having successful, satisfying relationships, when you can't always avoid conflict with people. Again, picking battles, but you can't avoid every conflict. And so if you're someone that has strong Libra in your chart, and you're 9 times out of 10, you're avoiding conflict, you probably need to balance that a little more, and maybe just get your point across this, even at the risk of a little conflict or disagreement. But the inconjuncts is like Libra 2 with Taurus 2. They both share Venus as their ruler. And so how would they get along? Well, they both have a sense of the aesthetic, and they both have Venus qualities. However, Libra with the Uranus and the sharpness, and that Taurus person would be in the Virgo decadent. That would be the Mercury decadent, who they can also be very good teachers as well. So there'd be a lot of teaching going on, but also possibly a lot of criticizing between Libra and Taurus as well. So, and the Venus qualities of procrastination or laziness, which, yes, all Libra and Taurus planets at times can get stuck in this inertia where they're not moving along enough. And it can be a pause. And it could also have to do, the Libra and Taurus can also, that can be activated if anyone has attention or focus, ADD or ADHD, any of those kinds of issues as well, that can bring that out, and that can cause a lot of pausing on taking a step or an action, or a lot of pause on taking or making certain decisions. So that's kind of how that inconjunct works. And the inconjuncts for every week and every sign is like, it really is a wild card, because I notice with my chart, when I interact with people that have strong inconjuncts to the major signs in my chart, it's not good or bad, but the differences are very much there. And it's kind of like, you really got to work at, like, I kind of see that person, like someone with a lot of Libra. I don't have a lot of Libra. I could say, oh, wow, that's so different than how I would approach this, but I'm interested. So it takes a little bit of an open mind and a little patience for people that are wildly different, but it can also be interesting. Now, the Pisces 2 person, like that first week in March, that's an inconjunct. That's a very soulful, the second decan of Pisces is pure Pisces. Very, very soulful, and they can also be loners. Pisces planets and people can be loners as well. They need a lot of connection in life, but they need quiet connection. They need like very behind the scenes connection with one person or a couple good friends. They need connection with the earth. They need connection with nature. They need connection with animals in a quiet way or behind the scenes. That's Pisces. And Pisces needs their otherworldly things, their yoga, their meditation, their spaced out music. That's what Pisces needs. So Libra 2 can vibe with that. Libra 2 can have a lot of fun, and they can appreciate that beauty in Pisces, and Pisces 2 can really appreciate the beauty in Libra 2. But the problem is, in temperament, they're so different, because Pisces is so emotional and touchy, and Libra is sensitive in a more environmental way, or more airy way. So it just depends on how much demands the Pisces would put on the Libra, and vice versa, in terms of their needs. But again, you really have to look, for a Libra person, you look at Venus. For the Pisces person, you would also look to Venus. It wouldn't be as prominent, but you would also look to Neptune, their Neptune or aspects as well, kind of thing. All right, so in the cosmic sky, we have Pluto, which I'll show you in a minute. Pluto is trining, or did trine, the early Libra planets. I know I've been mentioning this for a while. And Uranus in Gemini, also trining Libra. So all Libra people born this month having birthdays, and all Libra planets, at least by sign, are getting trined by the Aquarius Pluto and the Gemini Uranus, which is really nice. The Pluto is identity emphasis, because it's hitting the sun. I'm talking about the sun in Libra. It would be identity, and it would be emphasized strongly with Pluto. And with Uranus, it's bringing out the Libra person's unique qualities, because the sun is the identity. Now, if this were a different planet, let's say you had Venus in Libra, and Uranus was the transiting Uranus in Gemini trining your Venus in Libra, that's only just going to add to kind of the sparkling. It's going to give you a little bit of a sparkle in love life right now. It may not be lasting, but it's like a nice little temporary, sparkle, little like magic dust. All right, so let me take a look here. Let's look at. Oops, sorry, no, not that. Let's see. Okay. All right. Let's see. All right. Did that work or no? No, I don't think that worked. Hold on one second. Let's try again. All right, that should work. Okay. All right. So it's almost 9 p.m. I appreciate that there's still 3 people in here. That was great. You know, a few people left, but that was good. They were there for a good period there in the middle. So here we have the transits. This is for, oh no. You know what? This is John Lennon's chart. Oh, all right. You know what? Let's just talk about John Lennon since he came up. So the universe wants me to talk about that more. That's the natural course here. So John Lennon was October 9th, 1940 in England. I think the birth accuracy of this time is high. Most people have him as Aries rising. And so this is something I was just talking about before, about the Libra Aries opposition here, which John had in his chart. And this clearly, I would not want that. This clearly was incredibly hard for him. Here he had exactly middle of the road Libra 2 person, 16 degrees, conjunct that unusual star. His node in Libra, retrograde, Mars in Libra. He was very peace-seeking, especially with his ideologies and even some of his political energy. Very, as we all know, very much. But he had discord with Paul and the other members for different reasons. But a lot of discord with Paul, a lot of accord with Paul with the great songs, but also discord. Neptune and Virgo here, and he had Venus and Virgo. And all this was in the 6th house of work and service. So, but having this Libra Aries for John was a constant seesaw for him between, I would guess, between war and peace. War, peace, war, peace. So he had this battle within himself, I think, of like, I want peace, I want to be peaceful, but I also have these incredibly strong opinions, and I need to express this energy in a very forceful, direct way. I can't be I need to express the truth in a very Aries way. And this Aries rising, ruled by Mars and Libra, again, just adds to the differences with peace and war and peace. And a lot of that, I think, is reflected in some of John's songwriting with Paul as well. And I can't imagine how difficult this was. Now, he didn't have any major Capricorn here, except this outer planet that was squaring either of these, and he had no major Cancer down here, which would square Aries or square Libra as well, and no Cancer Capricorn opposition specifically in his chart, just Capricorn and Cancer on here. But he undoubtedly, now there's a lot of different theories about how he died and being shot and everything, and why he died, which I'm not going to go into. But you know, you got to remember, here's a little tip. The cardinal signs, which are Aries, Capricorn, Cancer, and Libra, the cardinal signs, more so than any of the other signs, the mutable or fixed, attract crisis. These are crisis signs because crisis implies strong activity. So in any crisis, there is a strong element of force, of activity, and it's usually urgent, right? If you have a medical crisis, you need a responder to respond to you or your loved one. You need someone to go to the hospital, apply medical procedures. There's something that has to happen urgently. These are the cardinal signs. Now, of course, Cancer is more quiet about it, but nonetheless very tenacious and strong. And Capricorn is very plotting about it. Carolyn says, good point. Thank you. So with all the cardinal signs, wherever there is cardinal in your chart, is it you have a need to push, and you can create crisis. If you're not careful and you're not positive with your own energy, you can attract it. So there's no doubt here that John attracted some war. He attracted discord. And I wouldn't say this. I wouldn't say that John was easygoing, even though he has a peaceable, easygoing Libra sun and Mars. He had a rebellious Aquarius moon, which is a cusp to Capricorn, very emotionally detached and rebellious. And there's no major Gemini here, but the combination of all of this crisis energy between Libra and Aries and the Aquarius, opposition, moon in Aquarius, opposition Pluto and Leo, a moon-Pluto opposition in fixed signs. He had some power struggles with people, and he had Mercury in Scorpio, just to add some secrecy to the mix. So John was incredibly complex. This is not an easygoing person. This is not an easy to read person. This is a very, very complicated, dense, kind of troubled man with markedly contrasting different personality traits here in this chart here. And here's something really important. Look, here's Pisces here. Oh, I'm glad someone else came in. Yay, thank you for coming back. I appreciate you. You have Pisces here, and you have Virgo here, right? So these are intercepted. So what does that mean? They're hiding. So his Pisces energy and his Virgo energy was hiding. Doesn't mean it's not there. But he was not able to access his loving, serving energies in a practical or spiritual way. He couldn't access them and express them with the public. Or in his personal relationships, he couldn't do it. He struggled with that. That's what I'm getting. He struggled with that. He wanted to, but this is in the 12th house, secrets, hidden. This is in the 6th of work and daily routine. His daily life was a grind. It was not easy being John Lennon. And this was not peaceful to him. He was not at peace. He was very rarely at peace. He was always looking for peace and very rarely at peace. So this is like, if you look at it from a spiritual perspective, that we choose our charts and we choose some of this energy that we come into this life with. And, there's a lot of different theories about that. But this is there's just so much to talk about. I'll have to come back to this because even this Capricorn midheaven as well, AG mentioned the midheaven in Pisces, which is kind of lends a kind of mysterious and glamorous kind of element to how you would approach your career or work and the public. But John having Capricorn here, it is just, it's Saturn, and he also had it on the 11th of groups. And of course, his moon was in the house of groups, attracting some kind of violence with this opposition to Pluto. And this is the house of groups. So just a lot there with John. And let's see if I can show the transits quick before we leave. Let's see. All right, so let's look at now. All right. Okay. All right, so now we have, this was 8 p.m. This was an hour ago New York time. And I did a quick Instagram post the other day about this Mars and Scorpio here. So I know some people with this specific early degree of Mars and Scorpio, not just any Mars and Scorpio person, which I know a lot of Scorpio Mars people, but the early Mars Scorpio person is a Mars return. It's very mini, it's very fast, but it is potent. And it culminated on Wednesday, this past Wednesday. So anybody that is early major Scorpio, think back to what happened Wednesday, how you felt, what happened around you, and make a note of it, because it was a marked time in history for that Mars return for Mars and Scorpio people, with the Mars in Scorpio square this Pluto in Aquarius, which is retrograde. And since it's retrograde, it's gone back to 1, 25. It's really, really early. So this is moving away from Pluto, obviously. And this is just the ascendant tonight. That's opposition. And there's no square to Leo, which is good. But that Mars in Scorpio, that's not something I'd want. It's interesting. Most astrologers, myself included, Mars in Scorpio is a very strong, powerful placement. And for the most part, there's a lot of prodigious amount of creative energy. Beautiful. AG, I have Mars and Mercury in Scorpio. Can we say holy cow? Fifth, I have my Mars is in the 5th house as well, which is why I get very fervent with astrology. Mars in 5th, yeah. So I get that. I feel that. But the Mars in Scorpio is not all good. I'm going to take the unpopular opinion here. I'm kind of tired of seeing every astrologer say how great Mars in Scorpio is. Now, I'm not hating on Mars in Scorpio. Just because Mars in Scorpio is dignified because of Pluto does not mean it's all good. Mars in Scorpio, more than any other placement, has the potential to destroy or heal. I don't see a lot of astrologers talking about this. I see a lot of astrologers and psychics talking about the power of, everyone loves the allure and sexiness and power of Scorpio. I get it. But, and my Jupiter is conjunct that transit. I have Jupiter in Scorpio. And that's right on that. That's right on that Mars, my Jupiter. And so I get it. But the Mars in Scorpio, and I've seen this in so many people I've read for that have a natal Mars in Scorpio of any degree. There's a very strong, this is an unpopular take. It's not the usual suspects that most people say that Mars in Scorpio can be vengeful, vindictive if crossed. They can close up and be silent for 10 years and then slit your tires because they never forgot what you did. That's applicable. But what it really is the inability to be vulnerable. So the Scorpio Mars, the lesson is coming into this life to heal, to use your power positively to heal others, to heal people. Now, Mars and Scorpio people, those are the therapists, those are the psychologists, those are the surgeons, psychiatrists, investigators, police, anything 8th house. That's Mars and Scorpio. They have that's the beauty of Mars and Scorpio, is the ability to move a crowd or move people with this mysterious power. So that's why astrologers talk about that Mars and Scorpio all the time being so amazing. And it can be. But there are a lot of blocks to Mars and Scorpio. Now, it depends on the aspects. It depends on what house it's in. But there are a lot of blocks to Scorpio Mars. And I see that a lot in people. I'm retired military now, a hospice nurse. Oh, wow. Well, thank you for your service. That's wonderful. There can be a lot of blocks. And what's interesting is the Mars Scorpio energy is, the Mars Scorpio energy to me is always scanning for threats. Now, a lot of that will have to do with how you grew up and your early childhood and your attachment style, and you could get all into the psychological stuff. But generally, that Mars and Scorpio is scanning for threats, even when there aren't threats. So a Mars and Scorpio does have a kind of a military precision about the way they go through life. I know a Mars Scorpio person she's a teacher, and she's an unbelievable teacher. She has incredible respect. She has amazing staying power, and her reserve and how she can handle the ups and downs of the teaching and the people and be steely, and just hang in there and be steely. That is beautiful. I've had many male friends with Mars and Scorpio, And while I appreciate the depth that they can muster in friendships, I personally can't be side by side with any Mars and Scorpio male for too long. I just can't. And I think part of that is because there's this inability for the Scorpio Mars to relinquish anything. There's no surrender, there's no relinquish. And again, in life, if you want to truly experience the beauty of life, you have to surrender even a little bit. So if your Scorpio Mars energy is not being used to heal, and it's being used to hold power with people, it's power tripping. Even if it's positive, it's power tripping. You're always going to be blocked. That energy will always be blocked, and you'll never truly connect. Not only will you never connect enough with others, but the Mars and Scorpio person will never connect with anything, because that control factor is so strong and so blocked that it won't let anything in. And that's even more than Mars and Capricorn. Now, Mars and Capricorn could be pretty cold and calculated if they want to be. But again, the Mars and Scorpio, dignified. Pluto Mars suits Scorpio. A lot of, there's a lot of depth there sexually and to put in relationships, and a lot of unwavering loyalty for helping people and your family and people you care about. So there's a lot of pluses there. But I wanted to talk about that because this early Mars return is got to be stinging, no pun intended. It's got to be stinging the early Mars degrees, kind of thing. What about Mars and Sag? Oh yeah, well, Mars and Sag, we'll have that in about a month, the transit. It's interesting you mentioned Mars and Sag. I'm watching the show Dexter Resurrection. Most people are familiar with Dexter, the series about a serial killer who has a code that kills only serial killers, which is kind of interesting. It's dark. I like it. And I love Michael C. Hall, who plays Dexter. And Michael C. Hall has a natal Mars and Sag. And I was just watching a little bit tonight. And he has a Mars and Sag, which is interesting because that Mars and Sag is very aggressive. It's very aggressive in terms of their beliefs because of Jupiter. Sag can be very philosophical and very religious in a sense. Religious, spiritual, philosophical. So anywhere where Sag is placed in a planet is going to strongly influence with beliefs or belief systems. And so a Mars and Sag person's not going to be as much about that control like Mars and Scorpio, but it's going to be aggressive about defending their beliefs, in a certain way. But we'll come back to, maybe I'll do a video on the Mars, because I really do like the Mars signs a lot. And there really is a lot there depending on how you use it. And a lot has to do with the aspects and the house placement of your Mars as well. That Mars in Scorpio, if that Mars in Scorpio is placed, let's say it's placed in the 7th house. Let's say like here in this chart. Well, let's just take this chart. This is tonight's chart. So a baby born an hour ago, he or she would have Mars and Scorpio in the 6th. So they're going to be a very vigorous worker. Their daily routine and service, habits, hygiene, health. Thanks for the clarity. I appreciate the info. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I appreciate it. Yeah, there's a lot to astrology that I notice. I guess what I should say is there's a lot of astrologers out there that are on a much higher level than me. They're definitely more talented and they know more on an intellectual level. There's a lot of astrologers that I watch that are on a higher level than me. But I do see a lot of astrologers that miss hitting the mark on a lot of things, like really I like to get to the inside, to penetrate and get inside what's really going on. It's not just the surface level, Mars and Scorpio's controlling. There's so much more. You have to think of it like psychologically. You have to think of like how is someone how is someone using or not using something. And another thing with the Mars is all our energy. It's not, sex is just one part of it. It's really not even the sex. It's our exertion, it's our effort. So when we're riled up about something, positive or negative, it's our Mars sign that's going to be like, okay, how do we handle this? And are we going to fight, or are we going to fight, or are we going to heal? And that's I think a big dilemma for Mars and Scorpio people. I see that especially in the males. Oh, that's so. I mean, what a placement to pick, because that tendency to either hurt or heal is, it's all wrapped up in the same ball, kind of thing. So, but I appreciate everyone coming by tonight, and I appreciate the couple of people that came in the last 20 minutes and hanging in there. So just a reminder, the live streams are here on Sundays. Right now, I'll keep it either at 7:30 or 8. You can check my Instagram Astroscoop7, or my X, which is Twitter, Astroscoop_scoop, and I'll mention the times there. But I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. If you are a family member or a friend signs in, you can subscribe and then get notified. I really, really appreciate it. Carolyn says, wonderful, detailed analysis. Thank you. So AG and Carolyn both got the #1 badges. I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much. And please spread the word. And we'll talk more about the transits next week. And then, of course, if you have any questions in the week, you can either comment on this live stream. Blessings to you as well. Comment on the live stream, or you can comment on one of my latest videos as well. Well, thank you so much, and have a good week. I'll see you next Sunday, and be safe.